Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and in this video we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 2 back there, a much-loved system that many people have purchased, many people have enjoyed it for several years, decades at this point. And it's even been a system that many people have gone back to revisit, the games, the console itself, anything else with it. However, there's been one thing that I've not only seen people complain about, but I've also even noticed myself that I didn't notice when I was younger playing this system. Now, I am going to give you all a heads up at the beginning of this video. Well, two things here. The first is that you might want to be careful. If you do not notice any sound issues with your PlayStation 2, you might want to reconsider watching this video, because I'm pretty confident if you don't notice anything now and you watch this video, you're not going to be able to unhear what is there on the PlayStation 2, specifically for the earlier Phat models. We're not talking about these slim models. Secondly, I was provided all of these pieces of hardware for free for the purposes of review by the Peaceful Outcome. Now, I do want to say that this is strictly for review purposes. This has not been any type of paid endorsement. This is not any type of paid sponsorship on here. These were sent to me for free. I am reviewing them just like I purchased them on my own, and my own thoughts are going to be present in this video. However, if you are interested in picking up any of these by the end of this video, I will have affiliate links down below to the Amazon and eBay listings. Now, what specifically am I talking about? Well, for the PlayStation 2, I'm talking about this, and more specifically, I'm talking about this. I'm talking about the fans. Now, there's nothing specifically bad about these fans. They work, they do a good job, Sure, they need a cleaning, they need some refurbishing, but that's all good. They're old, okay? They get that pass. However, the big issue is, again, on earlier PlayStation 2 models, really the Phat models, people have noticed that the fans are kind of loud. And this is where you might not be able to unhear it at this point. Seriously, if you have a PS2 Phat system, turn it on, just listen for the fan, and notice that it might be a little bit louder than you expected. Now, some people might not be bugged by this issue at all, and if you don't, that is completely fine, while as other people might have very sensitive hearing, or will just pick up on it, or maybe it could even be, well, maybe you even have a dog like I have down there, and she's definitely going to notice it. Lily, do you notice the PS2 fans? She doesn't really like these ones that much. So when it comes down to this, I've seen many people take older and dare I even say retro systems that have fans in them and start replacing them with Noctua fans. And I personally haven't owned any of these before, but they seem to be much more modern, much nicer fans, and also much quieter. But how quiet is the question? Well, that's what we're going to be testing out right here. Now, as I said, the Peaceful Outcome had reached out to me and sent over 4 devices. And they sent over 2 of their PlayStation 2 fan mods. One of them is just the standard one that at the time I am recording this video is the one that is going to go out to people. And another one is a prototype of sorts, which seems to resolve an issue that was with the 50,000 series PlayStation 2s. I will talk about that later on. I was also sent over a couple other things that are not related to fans, but we're going to be covering in this video. I was sent over a 2.5-inch drive spacer, and I was sent over a 3.5-inch drive caddy if you are a person that's going to use an internal drive on your Phat PlayStation 2. Now, this is my main PlayStation 2 that I use. This is a PlayStation 2, which is a 50,001 model. Of course, it's a Phat, and it has an internal hard drive. It has a Seagate Constellation 1 terabyte drive. It's a SATA drive that has that, IDE to SATA conversion board with the network adapter right here, the official network adapter, and you can see the mod installed back here on it. And just taking a look at it, yes, it is going to stick out a little bit, and that's about how it looks from the side there. Honestly, I think it kind of fits if you have a network adapter set up on here, but if you do not have a network adapter on the back of your PlayStation 2, I can totally see how this might not be the most attractive look at the very beginning. Let's also get this out out of the way too, all of these parts are 3D printed. I know that might turn off some people, but I myself do not have any issues with 3D printed parts as long as they are done and built well. The only parts that are not going to be 3D printed here are obviously any type of wiring on the fan mods themselves, and of course the Noctua fans. Installing these fans is incredibly simple. It is a no-cut solution. It is completely reversible as long as you keep all of the old hardware around. And on top of that, there is a really good guide that the Peaceful Outcome has, but if you know how to take apart a PlayStation 2, it's pretty simple to do. You need a small flathead screwdriver, and you're going to need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, or screwdriver bit as well. So you'll just need to take apart the PlayStation 2 down to the point where you can remove the old fan. Once you remove the old fan, you're going to have to remove the power connection from it. So I'm talking about the actual power plug as well as the switch here, which is really simple. You just push it out, you pop it into the new mod, the new fan mod, so to speak, and then you work in reverse from there. Now, do keep in mind, we also need to talk about compatibility as well too. First of all, this is obviously not for any of the slim systems. One thing to keep in mind here with reassembly is the new fan setup here only requires 1 screw as opposed to 2 screws. So if you're doing everything correctly, only 1 screw is going to be set up right here, and you're going to have 1 gold screw left over by the time you have everything reassembled. I've done this with 2 different fan setups on 2 different PlayStation 2s, and each time I had 1 gold screw left over. That is to be expected, and keep that on hand with your old fan in case you ever want to revert back. Now, this does work on all Phat PlayStation 2 models, but I also have to take a few things into account. First of all, in the description for the listings here, it looks like this was really only tested with the North American models, because I'm only seeing references to 30,001, for example, which is a North American PlayStation 2 Phat system. So if you have a PAL system or any other region system, I don't see why this wouldn't work on there, but do keep in mind the listing is only describing the North American systems from what I'm seeing there. Now, there is one model that is specifically outlined as not working, and it is the extremely early 30,001 PlayStation 2s, and also the 10-screw PlayStation 2s. Very simple if you want to check this out. If you want to see which type of PlayStation 2 you have, you can look back here, and hiding behind, well, where this is going to be, you're going to find your model number of the PlayStation 2. However, if you flip it around, you're going to see my PlayStation 2, and probably yours, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares, and if you remove those squares, there are screws under them. This is an 8-screw PlayStation 2, which most people are going to have. If you have a 10-screw PlayStation 2, this mod will not work with it. I've also mentioned the 30,000 series and the 50,000 series PlayStation 2s very specifically, and I did ask for both mods on here, I guess you can say, because there is a little bit of a difference on them. It's kind of a caveat there, but on the 50,000 series PlayStation 2s, the current iteration of the mod will work, but only if you have a network adapter plugged in. If you do not have a network adapter set up on that PlayStation 2, the fan will not run. So do keep that in mind. Now, the Peaceful Outcome has said on their listing at the time I'm recording this that they are working on a fix for this. Now, I have a prototype of sorts which was sent to me, which is why I have 2 of them. One of them is for all of the PlayStation 2s, except for the 50,000 series. If you do not have a network adapter, you have to have a network adapter plugged in, as I said, to get it to spin. However, I do have one which is installed in this PlayStation 2, which has an extra resistor on it, which does work with the 50,000 series PlayStation 2 and is reported to work on the previous models of PlayStation 2 as well. I don't have any info on when that's going to be coming out or how much work there has to be done on it, but I do have that installed in here, so I have been able to test 2 of them in 2 different situations and consoles and scenarios. As for our testing scenario, I ended up going into a quiet room, made sure everything was quiet. I would then use the PlayStation 2 in a certain scenario, just really have it running, not even explicitly using it because, just me being there, breathing and pressing buttons was going to, cause issues on how loud that would be. But I ended up recording how loud the room is without anything going on, without anything in there, without anyone in there. I then recorded and saw how loud these PlayStation 2s were, both models that I was testing, with a hard drive, without a hard drive, both with the old fans and with the new upgraded fans. Now, I do mention the hard drive because that is how I personally play games, and that can increase the sound that the PlayStation 2 is going to make. Now, if you did want to really quiet down your PlayStation 2, you could have a solid state drive in here. You could play games off of your network. You can play games off of a USB drive. But if you're going to be playing a physical CD, a physical DVD, or from a hard drive, those are all spinning things, so they're going to be generating noise. I think we all know that the DVD drive, we're not really going to be able to quiet it down properly, so that's why I was setting it up with the hard drive in there. However, even when the PlayStation 2 is just idle and doing nothing, those earlier units of the system are pretty loud. And that's even one thing that I wanted to bring up as well too. The 50,000 series is a quieter model. So I want to see how much quieter we can make the 30,000 series as well as the 50,000 series. And to actually measure everything, I just used, well, my smartphone, and I'm using an app on here called Smart Meter, which seems to work pretty well. Now, even just to have kind of a basis of how everything is going to be for decibels, I'm going to read off what the info section says on Sound Meter. Just so we're all clear with everything, about 20 decibels is whisper, 40 decibels is quiet library, 60 decibels is a conversation, 80 decibels is loud music, 100 decibels is a motorcycle, and 120 decibels is going to be the threshold of pain. We're never going to get to be that loud on here, but you all can probably even see right here, I'm talking at about as loud music would be. I have a loud voice and the phone is right next to me, so that would explain it. Do keep in mind, before I show you all the results here, that I did have my phone at two different places. One of them was in front of the PlayStation 2, and one of them was directly behind the PlayStation 2, like quite literally up against the fan. I do mention that because I wanted to see, how loud that would be, but that's also an impossible scenario. Nobody's going to be playing their PlayStation 2 like this, like they're talking on the phone. That's not going to happen. So I would say that if you want to see just like the numbers themselves, to see a comparison of how loud the PlayStation 2 is going to be before and after, you could look at the results from when the phone is behind the PlayStation 2, but when it's in front of the PlayStation 2, that's probably going to be the more realistic scenario. So first of all, let's just go ahead and record the room itself. Mind you, again, when I was doing this test, I would set this up to record, I would set up Sound Meter, and then I would make sure nothing else is going on in the room, and I would close the door and leave and go somewhere far away. I was trying to make sure everything was as quiet as possible for all these tests, but we just have to get a base value here. So now that we have that in mind, let's go through the 30,000 series of tests here. Again, this is the earlier model of the Phat PlayStation 2, and the one that is known to be louder. So there we go. I was absolutely shocked at how that turned out. The 30,000 series was incredibly promising and truly whisper quiet. I could not believe the PlayStation 2 was running at that point, and I had to check it multiple times, like, is the system running? Is the fan on? Is the fan spinning? Is everything fine on this? And yeah, it's all okay. Like, this is a true whisper quiet mod on the PlayStation 2. Well, okay, not like true whisper, like it's not going to be that loud, but you know what I mean. It's not like 20 decibels, but it's not exactly that, but it's still incredibly quiet. Now let's try the same thing with the 50,000 series PlayStation 2. Again, this is using the prototype I was given, so that one has the resistor on there to allow it to run no matter what state I have the PlayStation 2 on while it's running. I can have a hard drive connected through the network adapter. I can have the network adapter plugged in. I don't even need a network adapter, and this will work. So, no, that did not deceive you. It was kind of surprising to me, actually. I expected one thing, but not the other thing. You see, the fan in the 50,000 series PlayStation 2 is quieter than the 30,000 series setup. Like, that is just a quieter system, which is why I was personally using it as my main system. So we saw that the sound did decrease, but barely. It was louder than the 30,000 series now with the mods installed in both of them, but it was only slightly quieter than a stock system. Then when you set it up with a hard drive, at that point the 50,000 series with a hard drive is actually louder than it previously was with a stock fan, which I didn't expect. I was actually surprised with that one there. Not really a pleasant surprise because you want the system to be quieter, but the configuration and the way that I'm using this PlayStation 2, it's now technically louder than it was before the mod because again, I have the hard drive installed on here. Now, what do I think of these fan mods? Well, if you have a 30,000 series PlayStation 2, this is totally worth it in my opinion. If the fan noise annoys you, then you can pick up one of these. Again, it's probably a 10-15 minute install at that. It is incredibly easy to set up, it's really easy to use, and it truly decreases the sound your PlayStation 2 will make by a ton. It can make it close to whisper quiet. If you're using a network adapter, especially with this, then you're probably going to have a slightly louder system. Now, I do think that you're probably going to get a nicer fan since it's a Noctua fan, but if fan noise is an issue to you, then you might want to skip out on this one if you have a 50,000 series PlayStation 2. Now let's get on to the hard drive mods that I was sent over. I was sent a 2.5 inch to 3.5 inch spacer, as you can see right here, and I was also sent over a 3.5 inch Caddy. So this is just for, big 3.5 inch hard drives. Now I tried out the both of these here, and I just want to show you an issue that I have and many other people have. Now this might be a little bit painful to listen to, but on this PlayStation 2 I just have the hard drive connected and thrown in there, and well, you can see what's gonna happen and what you'll hear here. Now, keep in mind, the hard drive is all still fine, but it's not super stable in there. And thankfully, since the PlayStation 2, I'm not like taking it all over the place and I'm not like moving it a ton. It's fine, but it's something that can annoy a lot of people. I myself, I've just kind of learned to deal with it. So that's why I was really excited to get my hands on this hard drive spacer right here for 3.5 inch drives. Now, when I set it up, I was able to snap it onto my 3.5 inch drive with little to no issue. I was able to pop it into the PlayStation 2, and I was shocked at how solid it was staying in there. Now, you're going to hear a little bit of noise, and that's just still kind of from the setup I have on the network adapter. There is a metal plate there, and I had to take it off because it was just causing some issues on there, unfortunately, with my drive just not really making a proper connection. Maybe not advised to keep it off, but mind you, I've been okay with it on there. All right. However, then I went to remove it, and well, this happened. Yeah, you're seeing that. It it broke, like this thing here. Now it's still kind of like hanging on, but as you can see, you can't really just like pull the drive in and out super easily. Now, I was looking into this as well too, and on the listing it does say that the maximum hard drive that you can have on there in terms of like height is going to be 1 inch, and maybe my drive is a little bit too big for that. It should still fit in there just fine. I mean, it does right now. So it's kind of in this limbo where the drive I'm using is small enough where it's going to, you know, move around in the PlayStation 2, but it seems like it's too big for this, and that was just disappointing right there. I do notice, I get that they don't have as much to work with the Caddy, but it just feels flimsier than the Spacer, unfortunately, and I think that went into it as well too. The drive was kind of stuck there as well. It took me about 5 minutes to really take it out because I didn't want to damage this any further, but I had to take the drive out somehow, and I didn't use tools. I just used my own fingers after that. And then when I pulled out the drive, I did notice kind of, you know, some markings on this where I saw where it was a little bit too tight on the PlayStation 2. So that's just been my experience, at least, unfortunately. From what I know, this has even been redesigned, as was stated on their product page, where I don't know what the previous design was, but this seems to be the newer design for it, and I myself was having issues with it, so I really hesitate to recommend this. I'm just going to say, like, if you don't run into the issue, awesome, but you might clearly run into these same issues like I have right here, which is disappointing because I really like what this does, but if it's going to break, then, you know, it's going to break. And finally, let's talk about the 2.5-inch drive spacer right here. This is really useful for anybody who's wanting to use 2.5-inch drives, such as, you know, a smaller hard drive, or even, well, a solid-state drive like this. And can we just get this out of the way? I get asked this a ton, and there's people who mention this on here a ton. Yes, you can use a solid-state drive on the PlayStation 2. No, in terms of performance, it's not going to be worth the difference there. There's not going to be a difference you're going to notice on this, all right? It's not like putting a solid-state drive in your computer. You're putting a solid-state drive in a system that is capped at old IDE speeds. Let's just get that out of the way. Okay, cool. But I was just using this as a visual example right here. The solid-state drive fits in there just fine, and I had no issues popping it into this spacer. Now, the one nice thing about the spacer is it seems like because, well, these drives take up a lot less space, they have a lot more space to work with when setting these up. So it is still slightly flimsy, but just right here where you're going to be setting up the drive itself. However, all the other side pieces right here are incredibly sturdy, and I don't feel like I'm going to break these off. In fact, I know I didn't, because I was able to pop a drive in just fine. I was able to screw everything in, make sure it worked. I was able to take it out, and there's no scuffs, no pressure points, nothing of the sort on here. The experience and issues that I had with the hard drive Caddy for the 3.5-inch drives, I did not have this at all with the spacer, and I can without a doubt say that the spacer is fantastic if you're trying to use a 2.5-inch drive of any kind on your PlayStation 2. For what you're getting here, I can definitely recommend this. This seems to work incredibly well, and I've been very happy with this right here. So all in all, wrapping this up here, did we manage to make the PlayStation 2 incredibly quiet, close to whisper quiet? Well, I would say yes, and that entirely depends on your model of PlayStation 2. Again, if you have an earlier, like a 30,000 series Phat PlayStation 2, this is an awesome fan mod to have, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's very easy to set up, very easy to install, and it really does make a world of difference in terms of sound that the PlayStation 2 is generating. However, if you have a newer 50,000 series, I would really hesitate on this one here and, you know, not even really recommend it. I don't think this is really needed for the 50,000 series PlayStation 2 unless you are dying to have a better fan and like a newer, shinier Noctua fan in there. But again, with the configuration that I was using, if I wasn't doing anything with the PlayStation 2, like I didn't have a disc running or anything, then it was quieter, just barely. But then if I had like something loading off my hard drive, it made the system louder than the stock fan. Just barely, mind you, but still louder. As for the hard drive plastics right here, the spacer, awesome. Cannot recommend this thing enough. This thing is great if you're getting a 2.5-inch drive, like a hard drive or a solid-state drive. Sure, I'd recommend this. This is great. As for the Caddy right here for the 3.5-inch drive, I want to love it, but I'm terrified I'm going to break this thing, so I don't even think I'm going to use it, unfortunately. And with that, at least from my own personal experience, I really I can't safely recommend this one, which is a little bit disappointing. So, oh well, because this is the one that I actually really wanted, but you know what? I'll still be fine with the spacer if I need it. Anyways, that is about it for this video here. This is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated, and if you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well, too.